Let's just get right into it. Really excited to kick this off with a fireside chat with Rajamma and Sean. And how do you think about consistency in the interview experience? And then I'll ask Rajamma the same question.
Yeah, great question. So for myself and, being a recruiter and talent acquisition professional for the last decade, I've definitely have consistently tried to create a consistent talk tracks in terms of how we structure the interviews for everyone that I speak with. I think that there's one thing, in regards to standardizing your approach. But as you mentioned, how can we create more just equity and, reduce the biases, making sure that we have, repeatable candidate experiences across all of our different roles and departments. For myself, I do want to make sure I structure the interviews accordingly for every person that I speak with. But in addition, there's also a level of customization that we have to bring into every one of these roles and unique skill sets that we provide. So I standardize in terms of, the flow of the conversation. I standardize the topics around benefits and those areas which are most impactful in terms of what the candidates want to hear, but then also what we want to elevate in terms of our employer brand, recruitment marketing efforts, to really make sure that resonates as well. But I do create a little bit of customization, within that standardization as well, because it really allows us to just really, dive deeper into some of these key areas. So I would say that about 60 to 70% of my phone screen talk tracks are pretty similar in terms of how I position them. But we do provide a little bit of customization on the back end to make sure that we do have, just to be able to be adaptable and flexible within our, our structure as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. And Rajamma, I'll kind of toss that to you. So coming from a large company background, how do you think about structure in your interviews and standardization across interviews?
One of the things that we have seen, and I was reading about it just recently, that structured interviews, how important they are in terms of making sure that you are able to evaluate equitably the job performance, the performance at job for a candidate. And so from that perspective, what we do in Microsoft is whether it is an early in career, like intern interviews, or whether it is in the interviews that like we conduct. I'm a product manager and we have product manager interviews. We have very clear understanding of what are the kinds of skills and what are the kinds of questions that we will need to ask. And in fact, one of the things that I do personally is before the conversation starts, I actually have the first conversation with each of the candidates and tell them that what skills that they will be evaluated on and what are the kind of questions that each of the 3 or 4 interviewers are going to ask. So because we distribute the questions, like, for example, in a product manager, leading with data, having a vision-led way to approach things, or, customer obsessiveness and all of that is one part. So that is one thing. So the questions to evaluate job performance. The other areas are what Sean mentioned, which is how do you introduce your team? How do you make sure that your company's brand and culture are out there for the employees for the prospective employees to get enamored with, and so on. So that is one thing that I'm very sure about. I want to make sure that as much as possible, I bring the transparency to what we do here and how exciting it'll be for somebody to come and work here. So that both the culture and the branding is very important as part of the consistency of the interview, as much as skills evaluations are.